I spent years letting my parents decide for me where to live, who to date, what to dream. One day, I finally said no. And that's when the people who loved me most showed their true faces. It always starts small, does it not? A little help here, a bit of advice there, a few dollars when rent was tight. That was how it began for me. I told myself it was just normal family support. I mean, what kind of ungrateful son would turn down a check when his car broke down? Or ignore his mother's voice when she said, "Let us help." That is what family is for. At first, I was grateful. Sincerely. I had just turned 22, fresh out of college with a degree that looked better on paper than it did in job interviews. I had dreams, big ones, but they came with bills. So when my parents offered to cover my phone plan for just a few months, it felt like love. When they told me I could stay in the basement until you find your footing, it felt like safety. And when my dad handed me an envelope of cash the first time I missed a car payment, I nearly cried. I told myself they were doing it because they cared. Because that is what families do, help each other out. And maybe that was true for a while. But somewhere along the way, things shifted. The help never stopped. It just changed shape. That phone plan. My mom would casually mention what time I got off work because she saw the call logs. That basement. My dad started asking why I came home so late, like I was still 16. That money. Every dollar became another invisible thread, pulling tighter around me. The worst part? I did not even notice. Not right away. I told myself this was how families showed love. With concern. With structure. With sacrifice. So I brushed off the guilt I felt every time they offered something I could not return. I chalked up the shame to pride. I kept quiet when they asked personal questions, gave unsolicited advice, or told me what I should do next. Because they were helping. Because I owed them. That word, owed, it took root inside me long before I realized it was there. And by the time I did, it had already grown into something I could not easily cut out. I did not know it yet, but the real cost of all that help was not just independence. It was something deeper, something harder to name. I thought I was being supported. In reality, I was being shaped, molded into someone easier to manage. Someone predictable, someone who stayed. But that illusion only lasts so long. And the day it shattered started with a single word. No. You never see the price tag when it is your own family. Not at first. When my parents helped me with that security deposit on my first apartment, I thought it was a gift. When my mom called the electric company on my behalf because I forgot to pay the bill, I figured she was just being helpful. When my dad advised me to stick with a stable job instead of chasing a riskier dream, I nodded. Because they always said the same thing. We just want what is best for you. And for a long time, I believed them. But over time, the favors started feeling heavier. The money came with reminders. The advice came with guilt. They never asked me for anything directly, no big demands, no obvious manipulation. That would have been easier to push back on. Instead, it was all little things. You should really talk to your cousin. He just landed a great job in finance. He could help you get out of that dead-end place. Or, if we had not helped you with those student loans, you would still be paying them off. They never said it with anger. Always calm. Smiling, even. That was the trick. It was not abuse. It was love. At least that is what they called it. But here's the truth. Every time I made a decision that did not line up with their expectations, I felt like I had betrayed them. Not because they screamed or threatened me, but because I had been trained to believe that my life was a shared project, and they had the final say. When I wanted to move to a different city for a better job, my dad asked, "Why would you leave when you have everything you need here?" When I said I was thinking of getting a new car with my savings, my mom said, "We helped you when you had nothing. You think that money is just yours?" And I would hear it in my head at night. You owe us. You would not be where you are without us. They had their hands on every part of my life. Not tightly, just enough. Like soft pressure on a steering wheel. Keeping me in the lane they wanted. Gently nudging me back if I started drifting too far off the path. And I let them. Because it was easier. Because it was comfortable. Because disappointing your parents feels like setting fire to your own house. Until one day, I realized I was not living my life. I was just managing their expectations. But the moment that truly cracked something inside me, it was a phone call. One I will never forget. I had been offered a job across the country. Higher pay, more freedom, everything I had been working toward. I called to share the news. They did not congratulate me. My mom went quiet. My dad cleared his throat. Then he said, "After everything we have done, You were just going to leave us? That was the moment I saw it. Clear as day. It had never been support. It had always been control. And the only way to break free was to stop asking for permission. But I knew, if I really chose to stand on my own, everything would change. And I was not ready for how ugly it would get. I wish I could tell you I made the decision all at once. That I woke up one morning, packed a bag, and never looked back. But the truth is, I waded into independence like a man walking into cold water. Slow, step by step, teeth clenched. The job offer was the first real push. It came from a company in Oregon. Nothing flashy, just a solid opportunity in a place where no one knew me as their son. I wanted to say yes. I needed to say yes. But even after everything, I still hesitated. So I started small. I called the phone company and asked to transfer the account to my own name. You would think I had canceled Christmas. My mom's voice cracked like I had just stabbed her in the heart. "Oh," she said, long and drawn out. "So you do not want our help anymore?" I told her I appreciated everything, but I needed to handle things myself. She sighed. Not loud, just loud enough. Then came the quiet guilt. "I hope you are not doing this because of something your father said." My father did not say much that day, but when he found out I had opened a new checking account and stopped depositing into the joint one they insisted I use just for emergencies, he called me at work. No hello, just straight to the point. "So you do not trust us now?" I remember standing in the break room, holding my phone like it was a grenade. I said something like, "I am just trying to be responsible." His reply? "We were responsible for you for years." It stuck with me. The way he said "for you," like parenting had been an unpaid loan I was now behind on. But I kept going. I started budgeting tighter. I turned down the monthly grocery support. I began paying off what little debt I had, slowly but cleanly. Every choice I made without checking in, every decision I owned, felt like peeling off a sticker I did not know was stuck to me. And beneath each one, a small scar. The freedom felt good, but the silence that followed, that felt like betrayal. For the first few weeks, the calls came daily, sometimes more than once. If I did not answer, I would get texts. "Are you okay? You seem different. We are just worried about you." Then the tone shifted. "You are being cold. After all we did, this is how you treat us? I guess you do not need your family anymore." That last one hit hardest, because I did need them, once. But now I was starting to see what that need had cost me. And just when I thought maybe they would come around, maybe this could still be okay, my dad called with news that shook everything. My younger sister was moving back in with them. Her fiancé had left. She was struggling. And guess who they wanted to lend money to her? Yeah, me. And when I said no, that is when the mask really came off. It was a Thursday evening when my phone lit up. My dad's name flashed across the screen, and before I even picked up, I knew what it would be about. That tone he got, the one that sounded calm but sharp underneath, always meant I was about to be volunteered for something. He got straight to the point. My sister, Emily, was having a hard time. Her fiancé had walked out a few weeks before their wedding, leaving her with rent, bills, and a shattered ego. My mom was beside herself, and my dad said it would mean a lot if I could send some money her way. I asked how much. He said, "Whatever you can spare." But then he added, "You make good money now. It is time to give back a little." That phrase, "give back," hit a nerve. For years, giving back had meant paying my dues for their kindness. A dinner here, a loan there. My success was not really mine, not in their eyes. It was theirs by extension. They had invested in me, and now they expected returns. I took a breath and told them no. Just that one word. Simple. Quiet. But it might as well have been a gunshot through the phone. There was silence. Then a low chuckle. The kind that starts friendly but turns sharp fast. "Come on, son. Do not be ridiculous," he said. I repeated it. No. This time, I meant it. He went quiet again. I could almost hear him processing it, like the word did not make sense in his world. Then, with a strange calm, he said, "You are not like this. What is going on with you?" That question, it sounded concerned, but it was really an accusation. My mom called 20 minutes later. Her voice was soft, careful. She said she understood I was finding myself, but family should come first. She reminded me of all the times they had covered for me, the nights they stayed up worrying, the sacrifices they made. And then came the final blow. "You know, honey," she said, "one day we will not be around to help you. You might regret pushing us away." That one landed hard, because guilt always finds a way in, even when you think you have sealed every door. I hung up feeling like the worst person alive. I paced around my apartment, telling myself I could just send the money and make it all go away. Keep the peace. It was not even about the money. It was about the approval, the quiet harmony I had spent my whole life protecting. But something in me had shifted. I looked around my apartment, every piece of furniture bought with my own paychecks, every bill in my own name, and realized this was the first space in my life that was truly mine. And if I gave in now, I would lose more than money. I would lose that fragile piece of independence I had fought so hard to build. So I held my ground. I did not call back. I did not explain. The next morning, I woke up to 3 missed calls from my mom, 1 from my dad, and a text from Emily that said, "I guess you think you are better than us now." That was the start of it, the unraveling. By the end of that week, I was no longer their good son. I was something else entirely, and they made sure I would feel it. The calls stopped. Just like that, radio silence. For years, my phone buzzed constantly with check-ins, reminders, subtle nudges disguised as concern. Now, nothing. No, how are you? No Sunday updates. Not even a birthday text when the day came and went. At first, I thought maybe they were letting things cool off, giving me space. But that hope died quick. A week later, I heard from my cousin Mark, one of the few relatives who still treated me like a human being, not a wallet. He called and said, "Hey, are you okay? Your mom's been telling people you're going through something." I asked, "What does going through something mean?" He paused, then said, "Like a phase or a mental breakdown. She told Aunt Rhonda you're under the influence of bad friends, that you're turning your back on the family." That hit me like a punch. They were not just hurt. They were rewriting the narrative, turning me into the villain so they would not have to face the truth that I had finally drawn a line. Suddenly, I was not the independent son trying to grow. I was the ungrateful one, the selfish one, the different one. The worst part? People believed them. I started getting strange looks at family events. Well, the ones I still showed up for. My uncle would ask things like, "So, too good for the old neighborhood now?" Cousins I barely spoke to would make jokes about me becoming a guru or loner type. Even Emily, who had once confided in me about how trapped she felt living at home, now parroted our dad's words. "You've changed," she told me at Thanksgiving, her arms crossed. "You used to be decent. Now you think saying no makes you enlightened?" No one asked what really happened. They just clung to the version where I betrayed them. And the part of me that used to care, that part was still there, hurting, because I had not stopped loving them. I had just stopped letting them steer the ship. And apparently, in this family, love without obedience did not count. Then came the Christmas invite. A card in the mail, old-fashioned and formal. My name, neatly printed. Inside, it said, "Come home. No drama this year. Let's just enjoy the holiday." I almost believed it. Almost. But I knew better by then. I showed up anyway. Call it curiosity. Call it hope. That night, sitting at the dinner table, everything looked the same, but felt different. I had brought my own dish. I offered to help clean. I was polite, respectful, careful not to stir the pot. But they were waiting for something. Waiting for me to fold. Halfway through dinner, my dad set his fork down and said, "You know, we all make sacrifices in this family. We support each other." I nodded, trying to stay calm. Then he added, "But some people seem to think they're too good for that now." The air went still. My mom dabbed her mouth with a napkin. Emily looked away. I put my fork down too. And for the first time, I said it out loud. I never asked to be owned. Their faces froze. And then my dad leaned back, expression unreadable, and said something I will never forget. "Then maybe you should stop cashing in on our love." I stared at him across the table, my fork still in my hand, but I had lost all appetite. His words sat there, sharp and smug, like a trap he had been waiting years to spring. Stop cashing in on our love. I wanted to laugh, or yell, or flip the table. But instead, I just said, "I never asked for any of this." He smirked, like he had won. "You never had to ask. That was the problem." My mom jumped in, all sugar and poison. "We have always been there for you. Every bill, every setback, every late-night call. We dropped everything. And now you act like we were some kind of burden?" I kept my voice steady. "You were never the burden. The debt was." That was when my sister slammed her glass down. "So what? We should all just stop helping each other? Just let you isolate yourself and pretend that makes you better?" "No," I said, "but helping should not mean controlling. And love should not feel like a leash." They did not know what to do with that. They never did when I pushed back. My whole life, I had been the easy one, the compliant one, the fixer, the peacekeeper. But now I was the disappointment, the selfish one, the one who forgot where he came from. The room fell into silence. Then my dad did something he had never done before. He stood up slowly and said, "You are not the man I raised." And I looked right back at him and replied, "You are right. I am not. I finally raised myself." His face hardened. He turned to leave the room without another word. Emily followed. My mom sat there, still holding her wine like the scene had not just fallen apart around her. She spoke softly, not even looking at me. "You will come back. You always do." I stood up, grabbed my coat, and told her, "Not this time." Outside, the cold air hit my face like a slap, but it felt cleaner than the house I had just walked out of. Sharper, yes, but honest. That was the last time I stepped foot in that place. They would text me, of course. Call. Not to apologize, but to pull me back in. They always did. Offers of Sunday dinner. Updates about who got promoted, who got engaged, who needed a little help. But that night, I blocked all the numbers. And the guilt? It hit hard. But beneath it, something else was growing. Something quieter, but stronger. Freedom. I thought that night was the end of it. That I had walked away clean. But family never lets you go that easy. Not when control has been dressed up as care for so long. 2 weeks later, a message came through from an unknown number. Just a single line. "I think you should know what really happened with your college fund." At first, I thought it was a scam. Some phishing trick. But there was something about the wording, the timing. I stared at it for hours before I finally replied. "Who is this?" The response came almost immediately. "Your aunt. On your mother's side." I am not going to stay silent anymore. I had not spoken to her in years. She was the odd one out in the family, the one who moved out of state and never really stayed involved. My mom always said she was dramatic, difficult, bitter. Now I understood why. We talked on the phone that night. She sounded nervous, like someone watching the door while spilling secrets. She told me that when I was 17, my grandmother had set up an education fund for me. A sizable one. Enough to cover tuition, rent, books, everything. I never saw a dime of it. Because my parents used it. Not for me, but to pay off credit card debt, remodel the kitchen, help Emily when she flunked out of her first college and needed a second chance at a private school. I was stunned. I asked why no one told me. She said she had tried, more than once. But my mom told the family I had chosen a different path, that I was too independent to need the help. Meanwhile, I had worked night shifts through college, skipped meals, sold my laptop once to cover rent. All the while thinking I was lucky to have parents who helped when they could. I thanked my aunt, told her I finally understood why she kept her distance. And then, for the first time in my life, I cried. Not out of sadness, not even betrayal. I cried because I finally saw the whole picture. They never wanted me to fail, but they also never wanted me to outgrow them. So they clipped my wings with one hand and called it shelter with the other. I sat there in the dark, phone in my lap, feeling every memory rearrange itself. And a new question formed in my mind, one that would not let go. What else had they taken in the name of love? I kept that conversation with my aunt to myself for a few days. Not because I was unsure, but because I needed time to breathe, to feel the full weight of it. Let it settle. I thought the worst was behind me. I was wrong. The final blow came from someone I never expected, my childhood best friend, Jason. We had drifted over the years. He still talked to my family, still went to birthday dinners, sent Christmas cards. I never held that against him. I figured he just wanted to keep the peace. But one night, out of the blue, he called me. Said he had been meaning to talk for a while. And then he asked, real quiet, "Did you know your parents told people you had a breakdown?" I laughed at first. I thought he was joking. He was not. Apparently, ever since I had started setting boundaries, pulling back, paying my own way, cutting ties, my family had built a new story to explain it all. They told relatives I had gotten into some weird online stuff, that I was isolated, possibly depressed, maybe struggling with substance issues. Jason said my mom even cried on the phone once, telling someone she feared I had lost my way. Said I did not answer their calls anymore because I was ashamed. Ashamed? I was furious. They had rewritten my choices as weakness, turned my boundaries into breakdowns, my independence into some kind of crisis. Because to them, the only version of me they could accept was the one they could still control. I sat on my couch, phone pressed to my ear, listening to Jason stumble through his apology. I could tell he felt guilty for not saying something sooner. But honestly, I was not mad at him. He had just been another person fooled by the story they needed everyone to believe. That was their final move. Not anger, not begging, but character assassination. If they could not own me, they would tarnish me. Jason ended the call with a quiet, "I am sorry, man. I should have seen it earlier." I told him, "You are not the one who owes me that." But I knew they never would apologize. Because in their eyes, they had done nothing wrong. They had only loved me too much. And that is when the final realization hit me like a weight lifted all at once. Love without freedom is not love. It is control with better packaging. And I was done being wrapped in it. It had been 3 months since I last spoke to them. 3 months since I said no. Since I stepped out of that house and into my own skin. My days were quieter now. My mind clearer. No constant need to explain myself. No tightrope walking through conversations just to keep the peace. And for the first time in years, I started to sleep through the night. But of course, peace never lasts long when you have spent your life being the family glue. The message came on a rainy Wednesday. My mom. Different number. New account. Just one sentence. "We need to talk. It is about your father." I stared at it for a long time. I knew the pattern. Crisis. Then the hook. Then the guilt. Still, something about the phrasing gnawed at me. So I replied. She answered with a phone call immediately. Her voice was calm. Too calm. Like she had rehearsed it. She said my dad had been struggling with his blood pressure. That the doctor was concerned. That the stress was not helping. That the family falling apart had taken a toll on him. I waited for the ask. It came, right on schedule. "He just wants to see you. He says he does not care about the past. He just wants his son back." I almost believed her. Almost. Then she added, like it was a side note, "And maybe you could stay for dinner. Emily and the kids will be there. We can talk like a family again." There it was. The setup. Get me in the room. Get me to smile. Get me to forget. I told her I would think about it. And I did. I sat with that offer for 2 days. Stared at it like a trap disguised as a hug. Then I thought back to every favor I never asked for. Every decision they unmade for me. Every time, what's best for you really meant what's best for us. I did not go. Instead, I wrote my father a letter. I told him I hoped he was okay. That I wished him health. But I also told him the truth. That I was not coming back to the version of me they liked best. The one who confused guilt for gratitude. The one who said yes just to be loved. And at the end, I wrote something that came straight from the pit of me. "I love you. But I cannot be yours if being yours means never being mine." I never got a reply. But I slept just fine that night. I moved again recently. Nothing dramatic. Just a smaller place with light that pours in through the windows in the morning and quiet that settles in like a friend. No framed degrees on the wall. No signs of the boy I used to be. Just me. And that finally feels like enough. I never sent the new address to anyone in my family. I figured if they wanted to find me, they would have to look for the real me. Not the version they built. Not the obedient echo they preferred. But the man I had become when I stopped asking for permission. They never came. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear their voices in my head. Little echoes from the past. "We just want what's best for you. You're being difficult. You've changed." And they are right. I have changed. Because somewhere along the way, I realized that love without choice is not love at all. It is something else. Control dressed in concern, obligation wrapped in a hug. I used to think sacrifice meant loyalty. That love meant always saying yes. That keeping the peace was the same thing as keeping a family. But peace that demands silence is not peace. And love that demands obedience is not love. Sometimes, choosing yourself means being called selfish by the people who benefited from your selflessness. Sometimes, it means walking away and letting them call it betrayal, even when all you are doing is setting yourself free. And sometimes, maybe the hardest part, it means grieving the family you thought you had, while accepting the truth of the one you do. They still tell people I drifted, that I shut them out, that I let the world change me. But I know better. I did not shut them out. I just stepped out of the cage they never admitted was there. And now, for the first time in my life, every decision, every dollar, every word I speak, it is mine. Not borrowed. Not owed. Mine. So if you are sitting there wondering if it is okay to say no, if you are wrestling with guilt because you are afraid of what saying yes might cost you, hear this from someone who learned the hard way. The most selfless thing you can do sometimes is finally choose yourself.